District of Conservation is sponsored by the Committee for a Constructive Tomorrow, better known as CFACT. To learn more about our sponsor, head over to cfact.org. Thanks for listening to the program. Welcome to District of Conservation. I'm your host, Gabriella Hoffman. This podcast offers a sober examination into all things hunting, fishing, shooting sports, energy, environment, and the public policy surrounding it. And this podcast also specializes in original interviews that you won't hear elsewhere. Here's what I have for you today.
Okay.
It's great to have Jeff Angers from the Center for Sportfishing Policy here on the podcast as we recap ICAST. Jeff, it's so great to catch up with you. What is the temperature reading here at ICAST 2026?
It's electric. It's terrific on the floor. You know, the great thing about ICAST, this is not a consumer show, but this is a trade show, and it's the largest fishing tackle trade show in the world, and the floor is full of vendors that are showing off their wares, their new products, the coolest new gadgets in fishing, and it's simply electric down there. I'm thrilled, and thanks for spending a few minutes with me.
Of course. No, I love catching up with you, and I think you have a great pulse on the industry, working on the policy side of things. You know what's also happening on the apparel and product consumer side of things too. And this is the 68th annual ICAST. So this has been going on for almost 7 decades.
This has been going on a long time, and the show has been in Orlando for over a decade. Before it was in Vegas, it was in other spots, but this show belongs in the Southeast because it's in the Southeast where we recreate almost year-round. Fishing in temperate times is great because we can fish year-round, and the number of folks with booths here, the number of retailers is off the charts because this is where the business of fishing gets done.
What have been some of the highlights, your personal highlights here? Because there have been some luminaries of fishing who've been honored here, attending. What has been a highlight for you so far?
My personal highlight, Bill Dance, and I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. Bill Dance was honored yesterday morning at the industry breakfast with the ASA Impact Award. The presenters of the award were Steve Harvey and Johnny Morris, two giants in our world. Bill Dance has been on TV for 50 years. I'm an LSU fan, so I'm not going to wear a Tennessee hat. But, you know, for 50 years, people across America have known that Bill Dance was their friend on the boat. He was teaching people. He has been teaching people kindly and with humor what fishing is all about. You know, the people that you have on your boat are the people who are not going to stab you in the back. They are your true friends, and Bill Dance has shown America what it's like, what it means to be a true friend. I mean, just an icon of fishing. Johnny Morris of Bass Pro Shops was on stage showing pictures of Bill Dance catching his first bass, and a beautiful scrapbook that Johnny has because the success of recreational fishing in America is tied to both of those gentlemen so much.
Mm-hmm. And Steve Harvey too.
And Steve Harvey as well. Steve Harvey was really funny because he talked about being homeless and him having a rod and reel, and while he was homeless, he could still catch food for himself, and he would feed himself in public parks. He would find a place to grill fish, and he told a funny story about having seen a Bill Dance TV show when he was younger and homeless, and he learned how to use specific baits.
Amazing.
And while he was poor, he did go to a local Kmart and find those items. He said, to much laughter, that Kmart donated those things to him, and he started fishing more effectively. And now that he's a big star, he has means, he's in Hollywood, and he likes being on the water more than anything else. But he has started a foundation that has changed the lives of more than 25,000 boys.
Wow.
To get them outdoors, because the way to to get on the straight and narrow is to get into the outdoors and do productive things out there. So, we say get out there, and Steve Harvey's perfect at that. A great ambassador.
And someone who is also quite noteworthy in the industry, even indirectly, the late Senator Lindsay Graham. As ICAST was starting, the senator tragically passed away from a heart attack, heart-related issues. And he was what people may not know, and I'm going to do a overview of some of his achievements in energy and conservation after ICAST as well, because I think it's important to note this. But he was a big champion of recreational boating and fishing, really highlighted South Carolina's economy. So what does his death do, and how do you fill that void? Because it's really important to have champions like that in Congress.
Lindsey Graham was a giant, and a kind, funny guy. He loved the outdoors and the outdoor industry. His home state of South Carolina is one of the centers of activity in recreational fishing and boating. The 3 largest tackle companies in the world are based in South Carolina, and 28 different boat builders are based in South Carolina. As a matter of fact, one out of every 5 boats in use in America today were built in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. So it is big business in South Carolina, and Lindsey Graham understood what the manufacturing economy in South Carolina, what recreational fishing and boating meant to the means. I'll use active tense there. Means to the state's economy. That group of all the tackle manufacturers, all the boat builders, and all of the affiliated industries has recently banded together in the last several years and formed the South Carolina Boating and Fishing Alliance, mm-hmm. because together they are a really strong policy voice at the state capitol, and they're a really strong policy voice in Washington with their very strong delegation. Mm-hmm. Lindsey Graham is going to be missed in a number of quarters. This was an international news story, the passing of a giant like Lindsey Graham. It was a national news story, and in the discrete world of recreational fishing and boating, we're going to miss a giant like that.
He did leave a big void to fill, and I had some friends who worked very closely with him, a couple of them, so I know personally speaking, a lot of my friends are hurting who were impacted by him positively. He was a statesman, he had a lot of very principled positions all across the board, even beyond energy and conservation, and it is going to be hard to fill it, but his sister is now temporarily filling the void. I believe you speculate that maybe Congressman Russell Fry might take the helm. I think that there's open chatter about him possibly succeeding.
There's a lot of chatter. I'm a big fan of Russell Fry.
He would continue, you think, the recreational boating fishing priorities?
I do, yes. There are 2 coastal congressional districts in South Carolina. One is Nancy Mace's, the other is Russell Fry's. And, I see Russell Fry's star as rising. He's a fine man with a beautiful family who has really focused on smart policy initiatives. We don't know how the politics of this will all shake out, but what I've seen on the policy side, I've been very impressed.
Very good. And I want to speak more broadly to what is happening nationally. So as we're speaking, Jeff, the Make America Beautiful Commission report was just released. Sometimes there's a disconnect over coverage in the media and what is actually happening on the ground. Things are not perfect. No situation is perfect, but I feel, in my view, that anglers and boaters have a greater champion or greater representation now, even with imperfect, maneuvers and discussions. It happens. And then finally, at the end, there's always like a good middle ground that's achieved. But what is the attitude among recreational boaters and anglers with what is happening federally? Are they happy with expanded access opportunities?
Yes. So the administration from the White House through the Department of Commerce to get to the saltwater fishery and the Department of the Interior to get to the freshwater guys, the administration, top to bottom, knows that 2 things drive a successful recreational fishery: access and opportunity. Our tradition in America is for the public to have access to America's public waters. Mm-hmm. There are people who don't think that we should have access to America's public waters. And that has always been a tension, but thank goodness our tradition is to ensure access to public waters. And then the word opportunity means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. From salt and freshwater perspectives, reliable seasons to target, for families to target healthy public waters fisheries is what keeps people at this ICAST show, looking for the newest bait, tackle, marine electronics and hardware. It's what keeps people shopping for boats. It's what keeps the outdoor recreation economy going. If there is not opportunity to get on the water and bring your family to fish, you're probably not gonna buy whatever the outdoors widget that you wanted. 70% of the boats that are bought in America are purchased for the purpose of fishing, for the primary purpose of fishing. One other super important statistic: 95% of all boats used in America are built in America. It is an all-American industry that is led by small family businesses across the country. And this administration understands that. Secretary Lutnick understands it. Secretary Burgum understands it. And the policies that they've been fostering have been leading to promote both access and opportunity. I'm really pleased with the direction that we're headed on a number of fronts.
It really is encouraging because I follow this closely, you follow this closely, my listeners know what happens, so you have to kind of read beyond the surface level reports because yes, they like to get attention-grabbing headlines and then they miss the gist of things. So I would say that even if not everything is perfect, I would say like 90-95% of what we want is largely being achieved. But you mentioned access and opportunity, because some people could say they're for access, but they depreciate opportunity.
Right.
We saw that last administration, unfortunately, where they created so-called protections onshore, and then they removed hunters and anglers from access, or shooting sports enthusiasts, if we're talking about Pittman-Robertson. And so you're right, you have to have both of those factors in the equation. So I fully agree with that sentiment, and I think people just have to read this Make America Beautiful Commission report. It really breaks down like what they've done,
yes,
and what they're trying to accomplish. And so I definitely encourage that. But
well, and I want to pause on that. The MABA, the MABA report, Make America Beautiful Again, is tremendous.
Yes.
The team that worked on it, from Secretary Burgum, Secretary Lutnick, and the staffs of both Interior and Commerce,
yes,
and the White House staff, just stellar, smart people doing the work that needs to get done to ensure access and opportunity. I'm really pleased, and I feel like there's more good stuff to come.
It's important to have sportsmen and women in political administrations, and I think we've talked about this years ago, or I've talked about this with other people, that if you really want to make a difference or enhance access and opportunity, you need people who've done these activities. And when you notice, I'm noticing this in Virginia, we have fewer and fewer sportsmen and women now in our legislature. And when those people start to retire or get defeated, you don't have champions in elected office, whether it's the state level, Congress, the admin. And you really need those champions to understand the industry, or else they're going to propose legislation or regulations that kick us off, even though we're the biggest funders of conservation in America.
Right. Let me start there by saying that we are America's original conservationists. We have been paying the bill for conservation for 100 years. There's a lot of people that have no skin in the game who want us to be out of public spaces. And the best news, the best news to share is that the top people in the Trump administration, at both Commerce and NOAA and Interior and the Fish and Wildlife Service, clean their own fish and trailer their own boats. That to me is a very simple way to note that these are our people. These are our people. I mean, anybody that knows their way around a fish cleaning table is our guy or girl. this administration is chock-a-block full of some really great, down-to-earth, normal people who do normal family things, and I am really pleased and proud.
It should be expected. It's like common sense that if people are helming these agencies and even being supported by staff, they have to know a thing or two about fishing, boating, hunting, and all the like. But I want to speak more to some of their actions. So they stopped the vessel speed rule, which would have totally upended recreational fishing and boating. They have cut back on restrictions to access. There have been more expansions offshore, onshore. There have been many, many other improvements that have been made. So what are you most pleased about so far?
Well, so let's talk about the vessel speed restriction.
Yes.
So the original VSR, the original vessel speed rule, was first passed in 2008. It was originally passed to be a temporary rule, a 5-year rule, and when President Obama's administration came in, they made a temporary rule permanent by waving a wand. That's really not how it's supposed to be done, and I feel like people are paying attention to that. The Biden administration looked to expand the 2008 rule from vessels. The original rule affected vessels 65 foot and over, and the Biden administration looked to expand it to vessels 35 to 65 foot and expand the geographic range from discrete areas to the entire eastern seaboard from Massachusetts to Cape Canaveral and out as far as 90 miles, closing down safe vessel traffic for as long as 7 months out of the year. The Biden administration proposal didn't make it through. We threw sand in the gears for 2.5 years. Ultimately, its advocates withdrew that rule so they could live to fight another day. We found all along, as every one of your listeners knows, the solution to most problems in the world is not to be found in the federal government. We knew that the solution was technology, and the solution still is technology.
Which they refused to fund. There was right whale or whale monitoring technology in budget discussions, totally omitted in the previous Congress.
Yes, well, and really for over 15 years, back in 2008, the agency said that technology was likely going to be the solution, and they didn't do a thing about technology until they convened a technology workshop in 2004 after they had already moved the rule on. So they had no intention of paying attention to technology. Technology is the answer. Technology works. When you think about the technology today on which we are recording, in 2008, I didn't have an iPhone. I still had a BlackBerry in 2008.
Me too.
Yeah, and although I still miss my BlackBerry, the iPhone technology is remarkable.
Yes.
People who buy boats spend hard-earned money on the vessel. They spend hard-earned money on technology. A multifunction display that has a lot of inputs from their AIS, from their radar, from sonar, etc. Anyone with a vessel 65 foot and larger is gonna have appropriate technology. Earlier this year, the administration issued an advance notice of proposed rulemaking to open the record to get inputs from people who are on the water, people who actually are in boats and not in offices, which is kind of a big difference. And they got thousands of comments, and I feel like the inputs have been good. The direction that the administration is going to go here, I don't know, but I feel like, number one, technology ought to be the answer to how we conserve critically endangered North Atlantic right whales. The answer is not to slow vessels down to an unsafe speed and endanger me and my family on ocean waters. Number two, we don't think that the agency ever had the statutory authority to issue a speed limit in the Atlantic Ocean for these purposes. And we have argued our legal case in our filings. Other people have written smart arguments there as well. I feel like the administration has taken seriously the threat to access
Yes.
America's public waters, and they have acted in a responsible way to get the input. Where we go from here, I'm extremely hopeful.
I'm encouraged too, because there were other threats to the whale. My audience knows what was far more problematic, and there was a lot of coincidences about the no-go, slow-go zones and certain other structures that might have taken precedence over there. So it seems like cooler heads are prevailing. Speak to the red snapper issue on the Atlantic, if you can, because a judge put an injunction to stop that season from going into effect.
Right.
What has your organization been doing to address that?
We've been working closely on that issue with all of the states in the region. The South Atlantic red snapper fishery is healthy. The data, the federally gathered data, the federal government itself has confessed that it is flawed and poor. And what when you have garbage in, you have garbage out, and so the outputs of poor data has been for the last 15 years that the fishery has been 3 days or fewer for the last 15 years. The fishery has recovered 20 years ahead of schedule. It is a robust population, and the states wanted to figure out a way to gain access to that resource and have regular opportunity for their customers, the license holders in the South Atlantic states, to access that fishery. And so the states coordinated amongst themselves, excuse me, and they submitted exempted fishing permits to test a way that the states could get better data, because the states are known to do a better job than some of the bureaucratic career staff at the agency. We've seen the results in the Gulf, where the red snapper season 10 years ago was 3 days in my home state of Louisiana, and if you fast forward to last year, with state management of this fishery, the season is 200 days. 200 days this year as well. But the South Atlantic states were wanting to test this experiment and ensure that an expanded season in number of days would result in flattened effort. When, even though I had 200 days to fish last year, I really only fished 3 days. I picked the 3 best days for me and my kids, and that's when we fished. And that's what happens in fishing seasons all over the country.
Right.
When you have reliable opportunity, you access the water when it's the most convenient for you. So we did get an unfavorable ruling in federal court, and the administration asked the states to sharpen their pencils and consider a different path. I feel like the direction that we're going is going to get something that is substantial, something more than half a loaf. But I will admit it was very disappointing on the day before the season
commenced.
Season opened, when people had booked trips, when charter captains had filled their calendars, when people had bought tackle, when people had fueled up their boats, when people were in the passes ready to go out, and they were told they couldn't. Particularly disappointing. I have confidence in the states that want to be helpful in data gathering, because simply put, states do it better. And this NOAA understands and is embracing cooperative federalism like they haven't ever done so before. From the Secretary's office on down, everybody at Commerce recognizes that partnering with the states is a whole lot more effective than fighting with them.
Right. And what other priorities is your organization focusing on? Is there anything else that we haven't touched upon that you want listeners to be aware of?
I think the
Shark issues. I keep hearing from people, a recurring theme is a lot of people are nervous about very aggressive sharks that are multiplying like crazy all over the different coasts, and it's interfering with charter trips. So what's happening with the shark situation?
So with the shark situation, we had a great presentation yesterday from Dr. Aaron Adams with the Bonefish Tarpon Trust. Mm-hmm. He did some shark tagging in the particular regions where we're seeing the most depredation from sharks. Mm-hmm. And I was really fascinated by the results, because his remarks yesterday noted that there may be 100 different types of sharks out there, and it's difficult for anglers to identify one kind of shark from another. It's possible, but it's difficult when you're in the boat and you see that you've caught just 1/4 of a fish, mm-hmm. because the shark got the better part of it.
Yeah.
So Dr. Adams noted that it is a discrete, much like terrestrial predatory animals, like the buffalo, the buffalo in Yellowstone that mm-hmm. was on the news this week. He was the outlier. He was not the entire population of buffalo,
right?
Of bison.
Yeah.
But there are particularly aggressive individuals in groups of any animal.
Yes.
And Dr. Adams noted that it is a discrete number of sharks in a population that are causing most of the problems. Mm-hmm. I'm told, although he didn't show it, I'm told that the animation of his results showed that from 7 in the morning until noon was when most of those individual sharks were on the move, and it was because that's when charter boats and regular family anglers were leaving the dock to go on a day fishing. Mm. And depredation, like what we're seeing, is learned behavior. Mm. We've asked Congress to assemble a group of experts so that we can figure out how to target the particular types of sharks that are a problem, and as we learned yesterday, maybe the individuals who are the problem. And I hate to say who are the problem, but you know. And that legislation is called the Shark Act.
Yes, I'm familiar.
It has already passed the House. It is in the Senate, and it's pending action. The lead Republican is Senator Rick Scott, and most importantly, the lead Democrat is Senator Brian Schatz,
of Hawaii,
who's from Hawaii, and who is in Senate Democratic leadership. Mm-hmm. He is focused on marine issues. And he was the lead Democrat on the Modern Fish Act as well. Mm-hmm. Hawaii has a lot in common with every coastal state, because it's a coastal state on all sides.
Yes.
And every challenge that we have in the Gulf or the South Atlantic or the Mid-Atlantic region, they've had it there as well. So I am hopeful that the bill is either hotlined through the Senate or becomes part of a bigger package as they're trying to get a few pieces of legislation through. Mm-hmm. It is a really simple piece of legislation because it focuses on creating a task force of smart guys to pursue exactly the kind of science that Dr. Adams was talking about yesterday. I was fascinated, just to think about bears that you should be scared of, mm-hmm. and sharks that you should be scared of, mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily all of them. Yeah, that's to be noted.
Same with wolves, grizzlies. It's very similar to sharks, and they have a lot of advocates in these NGOs who are like, nothing, we can't do anything, and they think they're representing the interests of the animals, but in fact they're actually advocating for their detriment, even though they're claiming theirs. So it's like a little management goes a long way. That does have to be part of the equation, so you can preserve 100%. The whole population.
100%.
Doesn't mean you deplete the whole resource or the whole species. We don't want that. We saw what happened with that decades ago, before the advent of wildlife management agencies and conservation rules. Jeff, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you. These have been very enlightening updates. Wish you success with all your advocacy, and I appreciate you hopping on with me.
Well, you better believe it. Thank you for what you do, and keep doing it.
If you enjoyed this installment of District of Conservation, I would love to know your feedback. Send it my way. Please be sure to leave us reviews on Apple, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are played, and also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to never miss a beat nor a guest announcement. Thanks so much for listening to District of Conservation. I hope you have a wonderful day, and please share the podcast to those who may be interested in learning more about these critical natural resources, environment, energy issues.